Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today is the day that I want to start diagnosing what exactly is going on with the new pickup, the new 06 STI that we picked up yesterday. The more I look at this car, the more work it needs. There's so many little things. Like, look at the hood, for example. I don't know if someone couldn't figure out how to get the splitter off, but it looks like they cut a hole in it to get to the hood scoop bolt to get the scoop off. Just little things like that is just weird. But the first thing we need to do today, or the first thing I want to figure out in general with this car, is why it's smoking, why there's roughly 2 quarts of too much oil in the car. Kind of just diagnose, run through it, and figure out everything that this car needs. The first thing I noticed is that this battery is dead. So while we are diagnosing this thing, I'm gonna pull out the battery, get that battery on the charger. If it won't hold the charge, we're gonna have to go pick up a new battery, first things first. But let's throw it on the charger, see what happens, and then we can get this thing jacked up in the air, get some oil drained out. I might change it, I haven't decided yet. If I have oil here, I'll change it, but if I don't, I'll just drain some out and see what happens. One thing I was thinking is if the coolant level is low and the engine oil level is high, we could definitely be having a mixing issue, which probably would be a head gasket issue. So coolant would be going into the oil, making the oil level super high. But when looking over it, I don't see any coolant in the oil, or I don't see any oil in the coolant. It'd be pretty easy to tell, especially oil in the coolant. But I definitely don't see any of that going on. So let's get this battery out, get it on the charger, get this thing up in the air, some oil drained out, kind of look over the bottom side of this car and see what the hell is going on. What in the hell is this? Some sort of cardboard setup that they got going on. Oh, sensor hanging down. Let's just go ahead right now and drain a bunch of oil out of here. Try to get it to the proper level, and as soon as that battery's charged up, we can fire it up and go for a drive, see what happens. When we originally looked at the oil level yesterday when we were checking out the car, I was thinking maybe it's about 2 quarts high. But when I drained the oil and I put it into containers, check out how much freaking oil is in this car, or was in this car. We have a whole gallon, so 4 quarts right here, a little over 4 quarts right here. So that's already twice as much that it should be. We have maybe half a quart right there, and we still have a quart and a half, 2 quarts in the pan. So this thing was more than double full of what it should have been, which is weird. I was thinking maybe if it was about exactly twice as full, maybe he went to go get the oil changed, or he changed the oil and they forgot to drain out the old oil and they just dumped in a whole gallon or 5 quarts of new oil. This is freaking crazy. I don't know if this thing is gonna, I don't really know if this thing's gonna run properly, but what do we have to lose now? I'm just gonna dump in the proper amount of oil, start it up, and see what happens. I don't have any fresh oil here. I really don't want to go to the store right now. So we are putting in the old oil back into the car. If we don't have any crazy issues going on, then we can actually do a proper oil change. Let's put this into perspective. A STI takes a touch over 4 quarts of oil. They easily had 10 quarts of oil in this car. That is absolutely insane. I don't even know how it fit. That's insane. So we got it all filled up. We got it topped off to the proper level. Let's go ahead and throw the battery back in the car. I'm going to make sure the coolant level is good. We can start this thing up. I'm guessing it's going to still smoke. There's no way that having 10 quarts of oil in the engine didn't do something. But I guess let's just see what happens. Definitely have some coolant leaking over here. I can smell it burning off something over there, and there's a little bit of coolant on the ground already. We definitely have a leak on this hose right here. As you can see, she's pretty damn loose, so I'm tightening that up. That could just be dripping down onto like the turbo or the exhaust manifold, and oh my god, yeah, that thing leaks bad. All right, let's go ahead and tighten that thing up. But yeah, it could be leaking and causing all the smoke right there. Coolant temps are still good. Our oil pressure is good. We are hitting some sort of like boost cut or something, but we did get a check engine light, so I'm gonna go on the access port we got here and read the codes. So that check engine light is for a P0502, which is a vehicle speed sensor, circuit low. I guess that explains why our speedometer doesn't work. So the car has been sitting for probably an hour. I'm gonna check the coolant level. Coolant level right there seems fine. The level in the turbo reservoir seems fine. The car is still throwing quite a bit of smoke right on startup, so that makes me think that it would be valve stem seals, which makes complete sense seeing how there was 10 quarts of oil in here. That could have definitely done some damage on some seals. It could also be a turbo issue or a bottom end issue. Those are really the 3 things that would cause a car to burn oil. But being that it smokes right on cold start, it's usually a symptom of bad valve stem seals. Now with that being said, there was so much goddamn oil in this car that there could still be oil residue left in the exhaust from when it was smoking before, when it was obviously pushing oil past everything before with all the extra oil. So I think I'm gonna go put some more miles on the car, really just go drive it, see if we can get the car to overheat at all. And if it doesn't, I don't think we have any sort of coolant issue, coolant leaking issue. We did fix all the coolant leaks on the car. I don't see anything else leaking now. So I think if it did overheat when the previous owner had it, it was probably because there was so many leaks that the coolant level got too low and it did overheat. And if it did overheat bad enough, it would definitely take out the head gaskets, potentially warp the heads if it got extremely warm. But I really don't think we have a overheating issue. I think this car does have a oil burning issue though, so I'm gonna go drive some more, just get some more miles on it, try to burn any residue that may be left in the exhaust system. And if we still have that issue, we can start diagnosing. Pull the downpipe off, check the turbo seals, make sure the turbo's fine. We can do a leak down test, a compression test. But honestly guys, a compression and leak down test on this motor is so goddamn hard because it is a horizontal motor. So the spark plugs are literally right by the frame rail. It is possible, it's definitely possible. I think the easiest way to do it is to pull off the motor mount, jack the side of the motor up, and then go about your leak down and compression test. But we can also pull the whole entire motor out in not that much more time and do a leak down test while the motor's outside of the car. I am pretty confident the bottom end is fine, being that it has such low miles on it. We should be completely good to go there, but I just kind of want to double check everything out. Before we go drive it though, I am going to do a quick wash on the engine bay, just get it all cleaned up so we can actually diagnose this thing properly. Let's clean it up, let's go drive the car, let's come back, and if it still smokes, let's dig into it. All right, boys, we got it all cleaned up. I noticed the whole time I'm washing the exterior while it was idling, it was still smoking a little bit, and to me it smells like oil. So if that's the case, if it's still burning oil just sitting there idle, it's probably going to be either a bottom end issue or what I think highest probability of it being the turbo seals. So I'm just gonna go drive it real quick, make sure we don't have an overheating issue, come back to the shop, let it cool down, pull off the downpipe, check out the turbo, see what's going on. We drove it 15 minutes, no overheating issues. We let it sit there and idle for another 10, no overheating issues. I don't think we have bad head gaskets like the seller was saying. I think we do have in oil burning issues. In the meantime though, if anyone has stock STI seats, front seats for sale, or wants to trade, I want OEM seats back in this car because my fat ass hardly fits in these things. What I thought was like fuel cut or boost cut was actually just like a limp mode. So when the check engine light's on, you can't rev past 5K. And I kept hitting that, and I thought it was like fuel cut because it just completely cut out. But I reset the check engine light real quick, did a quick pull for the boys before it came back on, and yeah, it ran just fine. So that was just like a limp mode, you could say. I'm gonna go ahead, pop off the intercooler, make sure we don't have a ton of oil in the intercooler, and then from there we're gonna remove the downpipe. It's also a lot easier to remove the downpipe if the intercooler's off. Turbo is completely dry, but there is a ton of oil, as you can see, leaking out of the intercooler. Almost makes me think it is a bottom end issue. The turbo seems to be okay. I'm not gonna 100% rule that out, but I just wanna jump straight into it and do a compression test. Let's get some compression numbers on this thing. Then it's either gonna be the turbo seals are bad or the valve stem seals. So on this side, there's not a ton of stuff to pull off, usually just the battery. That should give us enough space to access the coil packs, pull those off and get to the spark plugs. This side, we're definitely gonna pull off the intake, which isn't a huge deal. And then we're gonna do side to side. So we're gonna do the passenger side first. There's a motor mount nut right here. We're gonna pull that nut off, jack this side of the motor up, and that'll give us much more space to access the spark plug and the coil pack. So the plugs look fine. They don't look wet at all, which is a very, very good sign. Let's go ahead and do a compression test on this side, see what numbers we get, and we can do the driver's side. We're at anywhere from 150 to 155 PSI on all 4 cylinders, so I'm pretty confident that this bottom end is completely fine. I am talking to TurboLab of America right now about the oil in the intercooler to see if bad turbo seals can push oil into the intercooler, and they said it definitely can. So I think either we have bad valve stem seals or bad turbo seals. We just have to narrow it down to either one or the other. I don't feel like doing the turbo seals and then putting it all back together and it's still smoke, but I also don't feel like doing the valve stem seals and having the same issue. I think what I'm gonna do right now is put the car completely back together, except for the intercooler. Maybe when it had so much damn oil in it, it pushed a ton of oil into the intercooler and it's just slowly draining out and burning out. So I'm gonna put the car back together, I'm gonna flush out the intercooler with gasoline, kind of slush it around, let it sit in there for a while, and then drain out all of the oil and gas out of the intercooler, put the car back together, maybe it'll stop smoking then. I don't really know. Let's give it a shot. So we got the intercooler all cleaned out. That is what came out of it. Super dirty gas. I really don't think that was enough oil to cause all the smoke that it was spitting out, but obviously it doesn't hurt to have a clean intercooler. I'm still leaning toward valve stem seals being bad. That is what my heart is telling me. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But I think for now it's just a good idea to throw it all back together, go drive it a little bit, get some miles on it. I wish we had tires because these are a little sketchy to drive on. Before we throw the downpipe back on, I am going to take off all of this heat wrap. As you can see, it's already fallen off. A little bit sketchy, especially if you get oil on heat wrap. I've never really been a huge fan of it. So yeah, I'm gonna rip all that off, get the downpipe back on, get the intercooler on, and we can go for a drive. She is all back together, guys. Let's go ahead, fire it up. Guess I should probably put this on and see what happens. I may be just barking down the wrong tree here. Maybe the oil in the intercooler isn't really what is causing it to smoke, because I know there's gonna be blow by no matter what. With an air oil separator, you're still gonna get blow by. I did a ton of reading online. A lot of people with the same exact Crawford AOS still have oil in the intercooler, but I don't know if they are getting as much as we had. I really wish there was a sure way to tell, to pinpoint if it's going to be the turbo seals or the valve stem seals. I feel like it's either one of the two. I know the bottom end's fine. We have perfect compression, 150 PSI on every single cylinder. So bottom end is completely solid. It runs good, it runs healthy. So I know it's either, or I'm confident it is either the stem seals or the turbo seals. I just wish there was a way to pinpoint which one. The second that the check engine light comes on for that wheel speed sensor, the car hardly idles. And then it does that 5,000 RPM rev limiter again. Man, I can't really wait to get to the bottom of this smoking issue. We may have resolved it, I don't really know. I'm gonna go back to the shop, just let it sit for a while, because that's when it smokes the most. When it sits for a while, you gotta fire it up, and then it'll just smoke a shit ton. So, can't wait to get to the bottom of that issue, so we can move on to like making the car nice. We already ordered new tires because we can't really drive on these tires long distances. Probably shouldn't be driving on them at all, but new tires. We're gonna change the steering wheel. I'm not a fan of the steering wheel. Obviously, put STI seats back in it. I don't like these seats. Kind of clean up the interior. Some of the gauge stuff is really weird. I don't know why. There's like a rear diff temp gauge. There's a rear diff temp, there's a trans temp, 2 oil temps, oil pressure and boost, but no AFR, which is kind of weird. So get all that situated and then move on to the exterior. We gotta fix up the wheels. I think I'm gonna run these wheels even though they're reps. Fix up the wheels a little bit, throw new tires on, maybe powder coat the wheels a different color, clean up the headlights, clean up the body, lower it because it's got stock suspension on it, so lower it a little bit, get it down to earth, you know, start enjoying the car a little bit. But we got to figure out the smoking issue first. So let's back it into the shop, let it sit for about 15 minutes, fire it back up and see what happens. All right, it's been about 10-15 minutes. Let's do a warm start for the boys and see how much smoke comes out. Damn. All right, let's wait. I don't know, an hour this time. There was no smoke that came out that time. I'll have to look at the camera, kind of review the footage and see, but I don't think I saw anything come out. I really need to get different wheels on this car so we can actually drive it, get miles on it. I do know that the water pump is leaking. I smelled coolant burning, so I jumped under the car and the water pump is leaking a little bit, but I don't want to fix that until I know that we don't have to pull the motor, because I don't want to pull the radiator, pull the water pump, change the gasket, and then put it all back together and then take it all back apart. You know what I'm saying? First things first, if this thing's not smoking, that's gonna save us a lot of time and money. I may throw a set of OEM or stock Evo 10 wheels on here, or I may pull the Gram lights off the Evo 8, but I don't wanna get that car off the road. I wanna keep that car on the road because we're still doing the engine break-in on that car. But at the same time, I need to drive the STI to figure out if it's gonna keep smoking or not. I went and pulled out my OEM Evo 10 wheels. We're gonna run these guys temporarily while we wait for the new tires, and I wanna figure out what wheel color we're gonna do on this car. I'm highly debating kind of remaking my old STI. Black Hawkeye STI, really low to the ground, red wheels. I don't know, I think it looks sick, but at the same time, I don't know if I feel like making the same car twice. That is so freaking bad. That is insane. How is that still holding air? Not bad. Honestly, looks pretty similar to the OEM STI wheels. Not a bad look for the car, honestly. Let's double check that our oil level is topped off, our coolant level is topped off. Do one more start, see what happens. If it smokes, oh well. If it doesn't, dope. The coolant's a little bit too warm to check right now. There is still quite a bit of pressure on in the cap, but oil level's good. It's 100% to the top full mark, and I'm gonna see how long it'll last like that, but let's fire it up, and if we don't get any smoke, I'm just gonna go drive the car for the next few days and live life. Really, the only thing that we changed today was pulling a good amount of oil out of the intercooler. So maybe it makes sense as to why that would fix the issue. If we had 10 quarts of oil in there, probably, I don't know how much oil in the intercooler, but 10 quarts of oil in the engine, pushed a ton of oil through the air oil separator into the intercooler, kind of just sat there. We put the proper amount of oil in there, and there's still a ton of oil in the intercooler. Could have been slowly leaking out and causing it to smoke. The last 2 starts we did, no smoke. I'm gonna let it sit overnight and fire it up in the morning, see what happens. So with that being said, that is gonna be it for today, guys. I know all we did was kind of just do some random diagnosing on the car. Didn't find anything crazy, but we may have fixed the issue for no cost whatsoever. If that is the case, that makes me a very happy camper. Peace out, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.